For a long time, whenever I heard the name Volvo, I always thought of the Dudley Moore film Crazy People, where they were described as boxy but good. However, in the early noughties, they kind of went a little bit off the boil with some kind of questionable designs and not being that practical against their German rivals. However, now, with a little help of Chinese company Geely, well, they're back, and they are back with a vengeance. First with the XC90, which has completely blown the 7-seater SUV class by storm, with the new S and V90, the XC60, the new XC40, and this, their latest model, the new V60. So I've had this car for a week, and I'm going to tell you what it's like and if it can still compete with its German rivals. So when it comes to style, you can't deny the fact that the V60 is a very handsome car. Yes, it does look a lot like its big brother, the V90, but there are a couple of giveaways to let you know it is the 60. Firstly, yes, there is the badge on the back that says V60, but secondly, on these Thorhammer daylight running lights, the handle does kind of protrude a little bit farther from the headlights and towards the grille. It's actually quite distinctive, and if you look at its big brother, the XC60 SUV counterpart, it actually has the same styling cues as well. So it kind of lets you know that this is a very competitive class that it is competing in, along with the likes of the BMW 3 Series Touring, Audi A4 Avant and Mercedes C-Class Estate. So let us know what you think is the best looking estate car in this class. Click up in the top right hand corner if you think it's the Volvo V60, Audi A4 Avant, BMW 3 Series Touring and Mercedes C-Class Estate. I'll give you a couple of seconds just so you can vote. So those familiar with the current generation of Volvos will feel very much at home here in the V60. I have to say build quality is excellent, with soft touch plastics on the top and centre of the dash. However, on the bottom here you have got some harder plastics, but they're not of a poor quality. So as a result, it's not quite on a par with its German rivals. I will say design wise it does knock them out of the park though, with this lovely Swedish minimalistic design. It is dominated with a 9-inch portrait style display, and it is a touchscreen only, unlike BMW's iDrive, which you have a swivel wheel for. I will say using it while stationary is absolutely fine, but when you are driving it can be a little bit fiddly. I'm a little bit old-fashioned and I do enjoy some aircon buttons being actual physical buttons to use whilst driving, but as I've been using it throughout the week, it actually has been a lot easier to use, especially once you've got used to it. Also, I will mention that behind the steering wheel is a 12-inch digital display, and that is standard on all V60s. It's really nice and clear, and you have got the option to kind of go through some personalisation modes, but all in all it's kind of a nice generic kind of dial setup with the sat nav in the middle. But other than that, it's actually really nicely laid out. Storage space is not too bad. We've got a couple of cup holders underneath this little cover here. We've got a weird little space in the front here, which I do believe is for your key. However, if you have got a couple of key rings on there, the tempered lid won't shut properly. You've also got a little bit of storage underneath the armrest, and that's also where your USB port is. And I will say it's not the most kind of well thought out area there. Granted, it can put you can put an iPhone 7 Plus in there. In terms of the doors, well, we've got a nice bit of storage in there, although you can't really put any kind of larger bottles in there. And also in the glove box, well, it's of an okay size, I'll say. I kind of expected it to be a little bit bigger. However, it's not all bad, because the Swedes, they do think of some extra bits, including, well, I don't know if you can see from that, it's actually a cleaning cloth for your touchscreen, so they know you're going to have grubby fingers when you're using that on the move. But all in all, this is an incredibly comfortable and relaxing place to be. Oh yeah, and finally, these seats. I think we can all agree that Volvo, and I would say as well Lexus, probably make the best seats money can buy in a car. They are extremely comfortable, and are, well, whether it be short journeys or long journeys, you're going to come back at the end of it not feeling as though you need the chiropractor, or if you're going to be a big ball of sweat. So, sat in the back of the V60, it's just like sitting in the front. I am extremely comfortable here, and even with this panoramic glass sunroof, I have got enough headroom and also enough knee room. I will say that that seat is set to my driving position. I am 5'7" tall and 5'7" wide, but I have had 6-foot passengers sat in the back of this car and they've not had any problems. I will say though, if you didn't have this panoramic glass roof, you would have a little bit of additional headspace, so anyone who is kind of 6'2", 6'3" wouldn't be rubbing their heads against this lining here. Apart from that, well, storage is, I would say, okay. So we have got some small door bins here, but they're not quite big enough to put bottles in. We've got a couple of, I'd say, little magazine holder type things that you get on the back seat of an airliner seat. We've got a central armrest that comes down. So we've got a little cubby area there where you can put your phone. We've also got additional storage space there, a ski chute hatch, and, oh yes, I forgot, you've even got your cup holders as well. And I will say, yes, again, it is very comfortable back here. But one thing I have mentioned though is my knee is actually rubbing against the handle here. But luckily, it is lined with, I think that's a leather, so it does make it a lot more comfortable than having a hard plastic. But anyway, enough with the rear seats. Let's have a little look at the boot. So when it comes to practicality with the V60, I can happily report that once this power tailgate is opened, which by the way is standard on all trim levels, that it will unveil 536 litres, which is the largest in its class. It's also a nice flat load bay with no load lip and a nice square opening as well. This car also comes with a convenience pack, which means that you can lower the rear seats at the push of a button just on the inside here. You also have, if I move the tonneau cover away, a kind of separation you can have in the middle of the boot there with little kind of shopping hooks, I think they are. However, I will say the shopping hooks on the side of the boot are actually far more effective. With that convenience pack, you also get a 3-pin socket which goes in the back seat, which means if you're driving along and you want to charge your laptop, you can actually do that in the back seat there. So that's actually something that's very handy for you. However, it's not all good news. That tonneau cover that I've just put back, well, it is a little bit fiddly. So in order to get it to go upwards, you have to kind of bang it up. However, oh, okay, it's done it first time, but it has actually been quite fiddly whilst I've been using it this week. You also get the usual tethering hooks. This car does come with a space saver wheel as well as an optional extra, and also, and I'm going to have to move them again, you also get a couple of little netting areas there, so you can put your press kit there as well as a first aid kit. Now, before the sun sets completely, let's take the car for a drive and let you know what it's like. So when it comes to engines in the V60, there are 3 to choose from, 2 diesels and 1 petrol. There's the entry-level D3 with 150 brake horsepower, the D4 with 190 brake horsepower, which is what I've got here, and also the T5 petrol, which has around 250 brake horsepower. I would just go ahead and avoid the D3, as the D4 is not that much more expensive to upgrade to, and that extra 40 brake horsepower does make a huge amount of difference in the way the car drives. It just feels a lot more effortless, particularly if you've got people in the back and you've got also their luggage. So transmission wise, you've got the choice of an 8-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual, which is what I've got here. And I'll be absolutely honest with you, and I think Volvo will be too, most people will go for the 8-speed automatic. That's not to say that the 6-speed manual is a poor gearbox. It's a little bit clunky. I wouldn't call it notchy. It's more of a clunky feel as you're changing gear. But I will say I do like the shape of it, and it has got a very short action to it. But it's not what you would call a sporty gear shift. I have driven a V60 with that 8-speed automatic, and I will say it is a lovely and kind of gentle gearbox, should I say, designed for the characteristic of the car. If you do push it, it does hesitate a little bit if you need to overtake, but it's more built for refinement than actual sporty prowess. So this is the voiceover part of the video using footage of the V60 I recorded during daylight hours. Otherwise you'll be watching me driving about in what appears to be a Scandinavian winter. As you can see, visibility in the V60 is very good at the front, although there are some chunky A-pillars which can make navigating T-junctions a little bit tricky. The other surprise is, despite this being a Boxy estate car, is actually how small the rear window is, and that means that the field of vision looking behind is actually quite narrow, as you can see here. And this is of course with the V60 being much bigger than the car it replaces, but other than that it's still very good for a car in this class. Now when it comes to ride comfort, this is where the V60 definitely beats its rivals. This car was built to do long journeys, and even on this Momentum Pro spec with the standard springs, it was incredibly comfortable and deals with all the bumps and imperfections incredibly well. If anything, you can hear the bumps but you can't feel them. I will say now with steering, again, it shows Volvo's intention with the car in that it's nice and light, and there is plenty of feel through the wheel. If not up to the same level as the 3 Series, but again, it's not meant to be a sporty car. This is all about relaxing and getting there in the most comfortable way possible. But you can chuck the car about with a bit of confidence, and it does feel very secure and planted. I will say as well, however, with some of the packs I've got in the car, including the Xenon pack, as you saw earlier going across the bottom of the screen, if you have to do any kind of low speed manoeuvring, that 360 camera really does come in handy, and the actual definition is very high, so if you are reversing, yeah, you're not going to hit any bears that are sat behind you. And also, on that note of packs, we also had the IntelliSafe Pro pack. So this is something, as you can see, going across the bottom of the screen. It comes with a Pro Pilot Assist, which basically gives you lane departure warning and control. It gives you adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, as well as rear collision mitigation. And it has got a level of autonomy to the car as well, but of course, it does mean you have to keep your hands on the wheel. And that's the thing with the Volvo, it's an incredibly safe car, and Volvo want this to be one of the safest cars in its class and being the ultimate family car, because they are pushing this not just for, well, what you would call the standard family, but for the modern family. And if you click up in the top right hand corner, it will take you to a link where for the launch of the V60, Volvo actually took over a car park and represented the modern family for 2018. Brilliant, good on them. And finally, just before you leave, I did want to mention that the V60 also comes with that foot wavy release under the bumper for getting the tailgate open. The reason I'm mentioning it is because I've seen it on a few cars and it's always been a bit hit and miss. However, on the V60, it works first time. How cool is that?